Sometimes when you're playing violin music, you'll see some funny looking symbols like this. These are embellishments or ornaments, and I'm going to go through 5 embellishments or ornaments that you'll often see in violin music. All right, let's start off with this one. This is called a trill. And a trill is just a rapid fluttering between 2 notes. So when you see a TR above a printed note, that means you're going to hold that finger down and trill with the next higher finger, or rapidly flutter that next higher finger. So let's just try it. Let's say you had a trill over an E on the D string, which is first finger. You'd hold the E down and rapidly flutter your second finger. Okay. You can try this with every finger. It's a great exercise. Also try it between open and the first finger. And all you're doing is dropping your finger very rapidly. And you can start this off slower and gradually speed it up until you're just rapidly fluttering that higher note. All right, let's look at another embellishment. And this one is a grace note. Now, grace notes are little bitty notes that you'll often see before bigger, normal-looking notes. Now, you can have one single grace note, you can have 2 or 3 grace notes. Sometimes they're eighth notes with slashes through them, sometimes they don't have the slash through them. But really what a grace note is just a faster note played before that big normal note. You can also kind of think of it like an accidental note. It's almost like it's going by so quickly, you played the wrong note for a second and then you quickly moved on to the right note, or that main note that's printed. So for instance, if you had this, you would just quickly play that G and the F sharp before the E. And those are grace notes. Next up, let's talk about mordents. Mordents are like short trills or mini trills, and they look like this. It's that little squiggly line above a note. And a mordent means you're just going to quickly play the next higher finger once. So if you've got a mordent over a C, you would just play a D once before you go back to the C. Do you see how it's just like a mini trill? I'm just flicking my finger down once. You can also have an inverted mordent. An inverted mordent would look like this. And this just means when you have a printed note, let's say on a D, and an inverted mordent above that, you're going to start on the printed note and go down to the next lower note and then back up. So like this. That's an inverted mordent. Now let's talk about turns. And the symbol for turns is just kind of a sideways S over a note. And what a turn means is that you're going to actually start with the note above the printed note, go down to the printed note, go down below the printed note, and then back up to the printed note. So there's really a lot of extra notes in there that you're playing, and all of that is indicated just by this sideways S. Now I know that sounds complicated, but think you've got your printed note, just start above it, play the printed note, down below the printed note, and back up. So if we had a turn over an F, then you would play it like this. You start on the G, above the printed note, down to the printed note, down below, one more, back up to the printed note. Like that. You can also have inverted turns, and an inverted turn would look like this. It's either the inverse of the normal turn, or it's that normal turn with a vertical line going through it. And an inverted turn is just the opposite of that normal turn. Instead of starting above the printed note, we're going to start below the printed note. Below the printed note, up to the printed note, go up one more step, then back down to the printed note. So if we had an inverted turn over an F, we would start below the note on an E, go up to the printed note, keep going up one more step, then back to the printed note. and that's an inverted turn. Let's talk about one more very common ornament or embellishment you're going to see specifically in fiddle music, and that's a slide. And normally it's indicated by a kind of slanted line. And for a slide, all you're doing is you're starting about a half step below whatever the printed note is and sliding up into that printed note. It's almost like you accidentally played the wrong note and you're just sliding up. Or maybe you're a little out of tune and you're just sliding your finger until it is in tune. So you can practice slides on every finger by just starting a half step lower than you normally would and then sliding up about a half step. So if I had a slide on an F sharp, which is first finger on my E string, I would start about an F natural and slide up into it. You can do this with every finger. Third finger, fourth finger. And you'll notice I'm not actually moving my hand. I'm just kind of moving from my base knuckle here. I'm opening and closing right there from the base knuckle. So those are 5 common ornaments or embellishments that you will often see in violin music. Now, if you enjoyed this lesson, you can head on over to meadowlarkviolin.com where I've got lots more free violin resources, and I'll put a link to that in the description below. And while you're here, you can check out this video or this video and have fun practicing.